JJK Modulo Chapter 22 spoilers are here. As I'm sure you guys can tell, they are a little bit delayed this week, but that's because there was a holiday in Japan. But they are here now, and y'all know the drill. These are spoilers, so rough translations. Be sure to come back on Sunday for the official release, but let's get into it. All right, so Chapter 22 picks up right where we left off, with Maru having this plan to rid the world of cursed spirits, his technique having found Yuji and Mahito to fulfill this purpose. So Maru and Yuji are still towering over Mahito.
When people talk about Jujutsu Kaisen right now, the energy around Modulo Chapter 22 isn't calm speculation. It's full-on chaos. The fandom doesn't just theorize, it strategizes like they're inside the story. Every panel, every line of dialogue, every slight facial expression gets dissected. That's the thing about JJK. It trained its audience to expect left turns. So when a new chapter number starts trending, fans immediately assume something massive is about to shift. A betrayal, a resurrection, or a rule-breaking reveal that flips power scaling upside down.
Who is absolutely terrified at the presence of Yuji. And the chapter begins with Yuji saying, okay, I kind of understand what you want to do and how you plan to do it. You're going to arrange the shapes of Japanese people's souls so that cursed spirits won't be born. And then he starts talking about Mahito's curse technique, saying, a curse technique that interferes with the one's soul and strengthens it with the cursed energy of the spaceship, the Muru ore, and Okotsu. Can that really be done? And then Maru says, if you allow it. And Yuji says, well, this one right here, referring to Mahito, isn't the type to just obediently do as he's told. And he says, naturally, he'll have to be subdued. Yuji says, so subjugation then. And Maru says, yeah, should I do it? And Yuji says, no, I'll handle this myself. My only concern is accidentally killing him, because if he disappears, we won't be able to use it, right? And Maru says, oh, don't worry, this is the passageway of souls. No one here has a physical body except for you and me. So death can't happen here. Only defeat and subjugation. You know, we could tear this place apart if we wanted. And so you...
One of the biggest theories circulating is that the chapter sets up a psychological twist rather than just another fight escalation. JJK has a pattern of subverting expectations right when fans think they've cracked the formula. Instead of pure spectacle, people are predicting a character-focused pivot, maybe exposing hidden motives or revealing that someone has been playing the long game. Fans believe the story might pause the chaos just long enough to reframe who's actually in control. And when JJK reframes power, it usually means someone we underestimated becomes terrifying overnight.
Yuji leans down towards Mahito and says, okay, you in? Mahito then shrieks in anger as he goes to strike Yuji, saying, don't you dare look down on me. And we see he starts to activate idol transfiguration all around him. And Yuji looks around and says, Shibuya? As the landscape starts to change around them. I'm not really sure why the landscape is changing around them. Maybe because this is like the passageway of souls and it adapts to what's happening. I don't know. But so Yuji's like, Shibuya, and Mahito is still just screaming, and he activates idol transfiguration, so all of these tendrils start coming towards Yuji. And Mahito's, you still have a body, you can still be killed, I'm the only one that can fight without holding back. Mahito then slams both hands on the ground and casts idol transfiguration, causing all of these tendrils to basically converge on a central point on Yuji and explode. But he doesn't stop there. Mahito thinks to himself, this entire place is a space with a similar composition to that of the soul. Everything that exists here is a target of my curse technique. I'll ruin your whole act of trying to look young, Yuji Itadori. And then Mahito goes to cast his domain expansion. However, we then just...
Another popular theory is that the power system is about to evolve again. JJK thrives on introducing new mechanics at critical moments, and fans suspect this chapter could redefine how a cursed technique works or introduce a loophole nobody saw coming. There's speculation about binding vows, domain refinements, or even a twist in how damage is calculated. The reason these theories go viral so fast is because JJK's battles aren't just physical, they're mathematical. Readers try to predict outcomes like they're solving equations, and when they're wrong, it spreads even faster.
See a panel that has all of Mahito's severed fingers and his severed tongue just sitting bleeding on the ground. We then cut to Mahito, who is just staring at his severed stumps, blood pouring out of his mouth, being like, what just happened? Yuji has prevented him from casting his domain expansion by cutting off his hands and tongue. And then we get the most diabolical double spread. So you know how when Naniko died, Sukuna basically cut her into all of those tiny little cubes with the shrine technique? That's what Yuji does here to everything, okay? So not only Mahito, but also, I told you he used a bunch of idle transfigurations to like converge on one spot on Yuji. Yuji cubes the entire environment in like one quick swoop. Yuji then walks up on Mahito, who is just like frozen, cut in these different pieces, and he goes, hey, were you always this weak? And then he uses his thumb and touches Mahito's head and severs his head into even more slices. And then he takes like the main pancake slice of Mahito's head that contains.
There's also the emotional prediction that this chapter might break someone, not necessarily through death, but through a shift in ideology. JJK doesn't just kill characters, it reshapes them. Fans are watching closely for signs that someone crosses a line, abandons restraint, or chooses a darker path. Because historically, once a character in JJK changes mentally, the entire tone of the arc changes with them. That's what keeps tensions so high. It's not just who wins, it's who comes out different.
His eyes, and it basically flings it over to Maru. And Maru looks down at this and says, sorry, I'm gonna have to use it. Maru then starts to channel his curse technique, and these energy balls start to like form in the air above his hands. But Yuji is just staring there, clearly thinking about something. And Maru says, hey, what's wrong? And Yuji goes, oh, no, I was just wondering if Mahito might have been messing with my comrades who have passed away. And Maru says, oh, no need to worry. Normally, souls here can't interfere with each other to this extent. And Yuji says, but isn't that exactly what his technique does? Mess with the soul? Like, that's why we needed him in the first place. And Maru says, oh no, he doesn't have that much cursed energy left. Earlier, he only temporarily regained his strength due to the influence of my technique. And Yuji says, you really do understand everything, don't you? And Maru says, I only know because we're here. We then cut to a panel where we see that they've gathered all of the components for this ritual, if you will, for this attempt to rid the world of cursed spirits together in like a toy wagon. So we've got the Muru ore from Samoria. We've got Yuki's soul book. We've got Yuta's ring, Rika's ring. And then we have newly added this like voodoo doll version of Mahito. I guess.
At the end of the day, what fans think will happen is less important than how JJK makes them feel while guessing. The theories themselves are part of the experience. People aren't just reading, they're debating, predicting, and emotionally investing before the chapter even drops. And that's why every new release becomes an event. Because JJK doesn't just continue the story, it challenges the audience to keep up.
Maru's curse technique converted Mahito into this doll that they could use for this ritual now, since they've subjugated him. So we get a glimpse of all of these components, and then Maru says, all right, you've given me everything I need from here. There's just one last thing I need to confirm about the Kalyan and Earth's cursed spirits. Yuji then basically launches into a monologue explaining how cursed spirits are born on Earth. He says that the spirits are formed when cursed energy that leaks from humans has a chance to accumulate and take shape. And this phenomenon is observed almost exclusively in Japan. So in order for us to create a world where cursed spirits are no longer born, we essentially have two options. The first, we eliminate cursed energy from Japanese people entirely. The second option is we turn all Japanese people into sorcerers. And Maru says, okay, The logic for option 2 is that a sorcerer expends their cursed energy through the use of techniques and can prevent it from leaking naturally, right? So that is dramatically reduced. And Yuji says, yeah, like that's the idea. If everyone's a sorcerer, there will no longer be leaked cursed energy, or at least not enough leaked cursed energy to form into curses. And Maru says, so is that pretty much what this book explains? And Yuji's like, yeah. Maru says, okay, it sounds convenient, but I don't think option 2 is the way to go, because the harm caused by cursed spirits would simply be replaced by harm caused by cursed users. And it might also result in more people like Toji Zinin being born, with these amazing physical heavenly restricted gifts. And there's no guarantee that somebody like that would be good, right? They could be evil. So this doesn't really solve our problem. Option 1, therefore, looks like the better case. We simply remove cursed energy from both Japanese and Samorian people, right? And Maru says, cursed spirits aren't born from Samorian.
So now I want to know, which theory are you betting on? Is this chapter about power escalation, emotional collapse, or a twist nobody sees coming? Drop your predictions below before it officially drops so we can see who called it. Because if there's one thing Jujutsu Kaisen has proven, it's that being confident in your theory is the fastest way to be humbled. And that's exactly why we love it.